All right, today we're going to be diagnosing a problem on a 2003 Subaru Legacy with a 2.5. The transmission type is a 4AT Phase 1. All right, I will get to that in a little while. We'll talk about the Phase 1 and Phase 2 of this transmission. The code we're getting, the hard code we're getting, meaning the code will not clear. It is a permanent code. It's a P0748, pressure control solenoid A. And this particular code, with this code number, P0748, is an electrical problem. All right, so the story behind this is this car was brought to one of the wholesale accounts that we deal with. And whenever they get transmission work in, differential work, transfer case work, they call us, we pick the car up, we do it for them and bring the car back. So I think the story behind this was one of their clients had brought this car in, and because I guess maybe he thought it was going to be a little too much of an expensive repair to put a whole transmission in it. You know, I don't know what the guy was thinking. They bought the car off of him, or he gave him the car, or whatever the case may be. So we picked the car up because now there's no plates on it, and we got it here, we scanned it. That's the only code we got, a P0748. It's in limp mode, so it doesn't shift or do anything because the code won't clear. So we're dealing with, usually either a wiring problem or a bad solenoid. And in this particular case, only because the way it has to be checked, the solenoid is no good. The way this transmission is set up, you have, most of the transmissions that you have, the connector is right at the transmission. So the internal harness is there, the connector, and you plug it in and right at the transmission. This is not like that. There is no connector at the transmission. The connector actually goes all the way up to the top of the car because we were checking this from underneath the hood. That's where we got to the bulk connector. And the wires run all the way down, go inside the transmission. So we were ohming the solenoid at the connector, and we saw that the solenoid read open. All right, so the next step is we have to drop the pan and ohm the solenoid because, there is no other connector that you can double check to see if it's outside, inside the transmission. So we dropped the pan, disconnected the solenoid, ohmed the solenoid, and of course it was no good. So I have my replacement solenoid here that I got from my supplier, Transtar, and this is an OE solenoid. Little expensive bugger too. All right, so we're going to give you a shot of the scan tool of the code. The pan is already down. I can't start the car, but the code is still stored in the memory. All right, I also wanted to show you whenever you have a problem on these Subarus, the AT oil light may flash, flash, flash. That usually means there is a code present. And once you clear the code, if you fix the problem, clear the code, that light should go out. So I just wanted to run that by you because I can't show you that because the pan is down already. But again, I am going to give you a shot of the scan tool. So we'll be able to change this out in the car. These solenoids on this 4AT Phase 1 are all individual solenoids. The early solenoid unit, the early Subaru unit, had a solenoid pack like the Nissan, like the early Pathfinders, the RE4, R018. They had a pack like that really early, 95, 96, something like that. And then they went to the Phase 1, and then in 2004, they went to Phase 2. And I'll just kind of show you the difference. I printed out some pictures in this particular transmission, this 4AT Phase 1. The solenoids are scattered throughout the valve body. Okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they're scattered, all around the outskirts of the valve body because the filter is in the middle. All right, on Phase 2, there's 6 solenoids and they're all bunched up together like a 6-pack. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm gonna kind of show, I want to get a little closer here. I'm going to show you some pictures. We're going to ohm out the new solenoid, see what we got. These are usually around, you know, they're low ohm solenoids, maybe 4 to 5 ohms. And then I'll show you the different pictures of phase 1 I printed out, had my mechanic printed out on Shopkeep Pro, and this one I got through ATSG. And then we're going to go ahead and ohm out the solenoid in the car, and then we already know it's bad, and then we're going to swap out the solenoid, and then when they come in after the weekend, they're going to put it back together. I have a pan gasket, new fluid, the code will clear, and the car will be done. All right, so at this point, I'll get a little closer. Again, we're dealing with a P0748 pressure control solenoid A electrical. All right, so let me get a little closer on the bench. We'll take a look at the solenoid, we'll take a look at some pictures, phase 1 and phase 2, and then we'll go to the car and confirm the solenoid is no good and swap it out. So I'll be right back.
All right, here's a shot of the scan tool, P0748, pressure control solenoid, duty solenoid A. So again, pretty much pressure control solenoid A electrical, and this is the only code we're getting, and it is a hard code, and the code will not clear. All right, so now I'm going to lift the car up, set the camera up, we're going to ohm the solenoid, and confirm that it's no good, and then swap it out with the new one that I have. Okay, so again, P0748.
Okay, so let's just take a fast look at the solenoid. That is the one. All right, we're going to be changing that. Let me just kind of show you these pictures here first. All right, so this is phase 1. I'm hoping you guys can see this. The transmission that we're dealing with now, and the solenoids, you know, run from here all the way around to the other side. So the pressure control solenoid is here. All right, and also as a test, if you wanted to compare it, on the other side of the valve body is the 2-4 brake duty solenoid, which is located here, and basically it's the same solenoid, should ohm the same, you know, about 4 ohms, 4 or 5 ohms, very low ohms. So you can always compare the two to see if you're getting the code, you know, possibly for the brake solenoid or the EPC solenoid. You can compare the two to see if they ohm the same or if they are different. But this is a picture of phase 1, and again, the wires come up through here, okay, right by the EPC solenoid, go up and up to the top of the transmission. And again, the solenoids are all here and here. All right, now let's take a look at phase 2. A picture of that, and you can see that they're all kind of bunched up like a 6-pack. They're all one. There's one plate that holds everything down, so if you have to change the solenoid, one of these solenoids, you got to take all the bolts out, take the plate out. All right, so that's what that looks like. That is phase 2, started at 04 and up. Okay, so we're gonna take an ohm reading on this and then head over to the car. I just want to make sure you guys can see the meter here. Okay, so again, low ohm solenoid, you know, maybe 5, maybe a little less. Let's see what we got. All right, we got 3.6, 3.5, 3.6 ohms. All right, so that's what we're looking for when we ohm that solenoid, which I know it's not, which you will see. Okay? So before I want to get set up over there now with the tools, get the ohm meter set up so you guys can see, get the camera set up, get some light under there, and then what we'll do is take an ohm reading, we'll swap it out. Now to swap out this solenoid, there is, which also you will see, so this is the solenoid we're going to be changing, and the ground wire shares the same bolt as the solenoid right next to it, which is the low clutch timing solenoid. So we're going to have to take the bolt out, not necessarily the solenoid, we'll have to unplug it, take the bolt out, slide the ground wire out, and we got to put the new one in, install the new solenoid, ground wire, and put the bolts back in. All right, so I will be right back underneath the car.
All right, so I'm gonna get a bunch of different angles here, but the first thing I wanted to do was just identify the solenoid with you. And then I'm gonna put I can't get the solenoid and the ohm meter in the same screenshot. So this is the solenoid here. That is no good. This is the electronic pressure control. Okay, so we're going to disconnect it. I'm just gonna squeeze a little tab, pull this out. Okay, it's a red wire. Also on this side is the other one that is the same, that 2-4 duty cycle solenoid, which should ohm the same, also a red wire. Okay, that should also ohm the same as this. If you wanted to compare, you can do that. All right, and then what I'm gonna have to do to swap the solenoid out, I'm gonna take these two bolts out, and I have to take the bolt out of the low clutch timing solenoid, and also disconnect the gray wire for that because it's right in the way of the bolt. And we'll see if we can just slide the ground wire out and put everything back, plug the solenoid in, and the repair will be done. And then we can ohm it again just to confirm. All right, so here it is. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the ohm meter up. I'm gonna have the camera on the ohm meter so we can see the reading of the solenoid. All right, so let me just get set up for that. Give me 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the ground onto the solenoid. We have it disconnected, and now I'm gonna put the positive lead to the blade of the solenoid, and that is the reading that we got. And I'm steady on it, so pretty much it's open. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna swap the solenoid out. Let me grab it, switch angles, and we'll go ahead and install it. Okay, so I'm gonna unplug the solenoid next to it with the gray wire because the bolt, it's in the way of loosening the bolt to get the ground wire off. Okay. I don't think that solenoid may not fall out, but let's take the bolt down. If we have to, we'll just take the solenoid down. All right, so I have to take the bolt completely out. All right, I'm gonna slide the ground wire out. Okay, so the solenoid stayed in. All right, so I have the ground wire out. All right, now we're gonna take the two bolts down that hold the solenoid in place. Now it's pretty easy fix. Okay. All right, let me just get something to give it a little push. It'll come right out. So here is the old one. All right, so the new one, I'm gonna put some trans gel on the O-rings. Okay. Put that up in place, there we go. Okay. All right, so now I'm gonna feed the ground wire back to where it was, and that was in between the valve body and the solenoid. All right, put this bolt back in. Okay, don't want to forget to plug the solenoid back in. Okay, there we go. Plug this one back in. And that's it, we're going to clean the pan up. I got a gasket for it, new fluid, and then the job is done. But let's just take a quick another reading while we're here. All right, so let me just unplug this again. Okay, and the way I had this hooked up before is just pretty much this just to the right to the solenoid, and then I'll be touching the blade. So let me get you on the ohm meter. Let me just bring this down. There we go. The blade of the solenoid, and there we go. Okay, we got 3.5 ohms, so we know we're going to be good to go. This code should clear, come out of fail-safe, and transmission will once again work normally. All right, so again, this is a 2003 Subaru Legacy with a 2.5. Dealing with a hard code of P0748, pressure control solenoid electrical, and we had found that the solenoid itself was no good. Let me just get back up. Oops, let me get back up here under the car. Okay, so again, I don't know if you can see, but all the wires here, these that just go up into the harness and up to the top of the car where the bolt connector is. So, you know, when you ohm the solenoid, you're ohming all the way down through the pass-through, you know, through the connector in the case down and doing the solenoid. So that's why once we saw it was open, we just had to drop the pan to confirm the solenoid was the problem. Otherwise, we would know we were dealing with a wiring issue. All right, so once again, 2003 Subaru Legacy 2.5 P0748 pressure control solenoid A electrical. Found a bad solenoid, replaced the solenoid with an OE. Solenoid is expensive, but we're gonna get them back on the road again, and the car is finished. All right, so I thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you next one.